Welcome. This is Hugh Massey, the CEO and founder of DNA Behaviour International. In today's webinar, I'm going to be talking about how we measure the behavioural finance biases using the financial personality discovery process. Behavioural finance is an emerging field in the area of financial planning and wealth management. And in essence, behavioural finance is about the application of psychology to financial behaviour. And it's based on the premise that investors are not totally rational beings in terms of making perfect financial decisions. Whereas traditional economics would tell you that human beings are rational, or at least applies that concept. So what we're really saying here is that each of you as advisors and your clients are imperfect in terms of your decision making. That's natural. We're all flawed as human beings. We have a set of cognitive biases that are wired into us, and it's really about learning what they are for each of us, and then working with them, reframing information around them to help the client make improved decisions. So what we're doing with the financial DNA discovery in uncovering a client's financial personality is seeking to get a more reliable prediction of how they will make irrational financial decisions, so that in a way we can more rationally manage the client and achieve more aligned and better decisions in the longer term. So in the way we approach this in the financial DNA system is that each of the financial DNA behavioral factors, which I talked about in webinar number 7 on the behavior of financial DNA factor scores, each of those factors are connected to a behavioral bias in some way, or a combination of those behavioral factors are connected to a bias, and we measure that. And in this webinar I'm going to show you how all of that connects up. So again, what we're doing is in using financial DNA is we're predicting how a client's behavioral style connects to each bias, the strength of it, and then looking at what we do with that information so that we can help the client at the end of the day make better decisions. And this is sort of more of a simplistic approach to bringing all of this together. But at the end of the day, when we think about financial planning, it's about the client achieving their goals, and it's their behavior that's going to get in the way of achieving their goals, and that's what needs to be managed. And so some of these biases here on the left-hand side really mean that the client will be more cautious in terms of how they make decisions. And you know, it might be that we need to, if they exhibit a number of these biases here, need to work at improving or increasing their decision-making confidence, as opposed to the biases here are more around the client being a higher risk taker, and in fact we might need to manage their expectations down somewhat. So again, this is just a simplification to help understand where the biases sit in relation to risk, because remember, it's human behavior at an overall level that causes risk to the clients not achieving their goals. And so here's our reporting and where we start to bring all of this together. And in our natural behavior reporting, we have a behavioral management guide report. This is a report that is used by advisors to facilitate the meeting experience. And in here we have the behavioral biases. But also what this report's doing at a broader level, just to address this, is we highlight the differences between the advisor and the client and what to do with those differences, so that you as the advisor can provide a guided experience to the client. And this is why we don't always provide this report up front to the client automatically, because it's really more about you using the report as an advisor to guide the client through the discovery process. So in a way, this report provides a glorified meeting agenda for you so that you can lead the client through the facilitation of financial DNA. And it includes the questions that you need to ask. So that's always, again, an important part of this. It's not just what the insights say, it's the questions you ask around them to draw the client out and enrich in the discussion. So here's where at a high level we align the various behavioral biases to the profile styles. So you can see that the clients that are initiators, for example, like myself, would have more of a consolidated view of the portfolio. So I'm looking at more of the overall result of the portfolio and not so much the individual positions inside the portfolio. And so there are strengths and struggles with taking that approach. Someone like me could overtrade the account, have too much optimism, and be a risk taker. As opposed to in here, here's the spender, the person who will follow the herd. What is everybody else doing, and make decisions that way. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not good. But you know, it's the dinner party investor to some degree is sitting here. Will be a very instinctive investor. That can be useful, you know, in taking that hunch and running with it, and not getting stuck in the analysis, as would the client that's down here is more this, you know, the saver, very careful, wants to follow the benchmarks, you know, and stick close to a pattern. And again, they can get landlocked to very structured thinking there that gets in the way. And then we have the more cautious client here. And they could be so cautious that, you know, and not wanting any conflict and to be upset, so that, you know, what they tend to do is sell a winner when they've got one and hang on to the losers, and not realizing that the loser may never come back, and that's just a write-off, and they don't, you know, they don't take the write-off like they should. And then this is an extract from the Behavioural Management Guide report to show each client's scoring, or the measurement of each of the 16 behavioural biases that we measure. And so it's in this tabular format, and it's easy to see which of the biases is stronger for the client and which ones is or are not as strong. And again, in the Financial DNA summary report that the clients get, the top two are identified. So you'll recall for Chris Coddington, in his report, the optimism bias and the overconfidence bias were more specifically reported on, because they're the stronger behavioural factors that will, or biases that will influence their decision making. In the next webinar, we're going to look at some case studies for making the Financial DNA discovery practical, and you know, for helping cement this knowledge in you know, looking at real people that have been through Financial DNA, and how would you facilitate each of them.